Good afternoon. A New York woman who claims she was sexually assaulted by accused child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein has filed the first of what is expected to be a wave of lawsuits against the former financier's wealthy estate. Now, legal analyst Mollye Barrows, a contributor with America's Lawyer, is here now with the latest on the case, including Epstein's suicide. Mollye, tell us about this lawsuit and what is the gist of it?
Well, hi, Scotty. So it was filed by Jennifer Barrows. She said she was just 14 years old when Jeffrey Epstein assaulted her. She said it began with a grooming process that led to months of sexual abuse, including a brutal rape. Her attorney in the lawsuit said that it was an Epstein associate, not the British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell that we've heard so much about. But she did say that that woman was involved. But she said that this particular associate who groomed her said that she basically introduced her to Epstein, and that's when the abuse began. But she was familiar with Maxwell, and that she said she oversaw the recruitment of other girls besides herself. And get this, ensured that 3 girls a day were, quote, made available to Epstein for his sexual pleasure. There are 3 other unnamed defendants in this lawsuit. All are women who allegedly worked for Epstein in New York, including a maid, a secretary, and a recruiter who helped procure those underage girls for him. The lawsuit was filed in New York County Supreme Court. It is among the first, Scotty, of what's expected to be a wave of lawsuits against Epstein's very wealthy estate. And Barrows was able to actually sue this estate through the state's Child Victims Act, because you may be wondering, you know, this happened so long ago, why is she able to do it? Well, this gives a 1-year window to sue over alleged sexual abuse, regardless of how long ago it occurred. Now, it's not known if Epstein has a will. His lawyers say he had almost $560 million of assets, including the 2 private islands, 4 homes, and that Manhattan mansion that's worth about $77 million.
And Mollye, on this situation, I know this is something that we're just finding out the details of it, so I don't even know if this detail has been released. Is this accuser someone who, or is this case one that might have already been settled in some form? Are we seeing news that have never even been filed yet and seen the light of day? Or are these old stories, are they able to come back in and go against the estate now?
I think it's a conglomeration of those things. I think you're seeing a lot of new accusations, victims that are comfortable with coming forward. I think you're also seeing some victims that have previously made their accusations known, at least to investigators in this process. So I think that's what we're going to see with this wave of lawsuits that's coming. I think there's going to be an evaluation of the estate, and then they'll come forward with these various accusations. And what's interesting about a civil lawsuit is, unlike a criminal lawsuit, you don't have to, you know, the judge or the jury doesn't have to find beyond a reasonable doubt. They basically just have to find that there's a propensity of evidence that proves these allegations. So it'll be interesting to see what becomes of these lawsuits. But yes, with such a slew of accusations and alleged victims out there that spanned decades, I think that you can rest assured that this is going to be the first of many, because these accusers also felt like they've been robbed because of Epstein's suicide. They didn't get to have their chance to face him in court and accuse him to his face and watched him answer those accusations and perhaps even find more evidence against any alleged co-conspirators as well. So this is one avenue that they can allegedly, hopefully find some justice.
And those that in the past that had been squelched, that their NDAs possibly will be ruled, thrown out of court at this point, they too can actually go after justice. I want to keep going because since Epstein's committed suicide, much of this focus has turned to his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, who has been named by a number of these victims as helping Epstein recruit girls and shop them to his wealthy friends. Where is she now?
Well, it's interesting, and so there are a number of reports. She's been cited, and according to a number of media outlets, she's now living in an oceanfront mansion in Massachusetts in the community of Manchester by the Sea, and of course she is keeping a low profile, as you might imagine. So she is 57 years old. She's a British socialite, and she has repeatedly denied these allegations, Scotty, that she helped build a sex trafficking network run by Epstein. And as you know, of course, he died by that apparent suicide hanging in the New York jail cell on August 10th. Now, the attorney, Jennifer Barrows, who filed that first lawsuit, says she never met with her, actually, but she knew of her. And her attorney told reporters that he intends to hold Epstein's adult enablers responsible, and that it's a very large part of this story. And he went on to point to her and say that Maxwell was a key figure in maintaining and concealing his alleged sex trafficking ring. Other victims say the same thing. They say they knew her directly, that she directly recruited them into this grooming process and began what was basically a nightmare. And they also say that she was just as into Epstein's sexual obsession as he was. And of course, Attorney General Bill Barr has suggested that the multimillionaire's death will turn the criminal investigations toward now potential co-conspirators. So some of the victims tell similar stories that Maxwell befriended them, again, began that grooming process before leaving them alone with Epstein. And the way it would work is essentially they would come and visit him several times before he would ask for a massage or anything sexual in nature occurred. He would give them money, and then they would come back expecting that it was just a visit and they were going to give a few $100s. These were young girls that basically came from down homes where they didn't have a lot of opportunity, if you will. So this money that they were given meant a lot to them. And so, of course, when they were left alone and it did turn sexual, these victims are saying that he would hold it over them, that he was, supposedly giving them this money without strings attached. But once the sexual abuse began and they were reluctant to do it, he basically told them that you owed it to them. And they were too young to know that they could basically say no. So they're angry now that he's gone. They won't be able to face him in court. But again, this is an avenue going after his co-conspirators or going after his civil estate to give them some chance at justice, Scottie.
Well, and as you mentioned several times, there's obviously a lot of this turned another angle when Jeffrey Epstein decided to commit suicide over the weekend. What is the latest on the multiple investigations into Epstein's suicide cause and possibly neglect by there in the jail that allowed him to do it?
I know. The reports just keep coming of basically any number of ways that apparently protocol was not followed. So there are now reports that 2 prison guards assigned to monitor him in that high-security jail cell fell asleep for 3 hours the night he died and then allegedly falsified a log to hide the mistake. This is coming from the New York Times and other media outlets as well. So both guards have since been placed on administrative leave, and a warden for the Metropolitan Correctional Center has been temporarily reassigned. And there are multiple reports of breaches of protocol. Congress is the latest to start investigating the accused child molester's apparent suicide over the weekend. And there are new reports raising questions about the federal jail in general where he was held. A lot of these guards say they were working overtime, that there were just not enough, they were tired, that there weren't enough people to basically do the job. And so it was this number of issues, if you will, that cascaded into creating the perfect storm where Jeffrey Epstein, who was no longer on suicide watch, was basically not checked on for several hours, and then they did find him dead in his cell. There are also 2 separate investigations by the FBI as well as the U.S. Department of Justice, because there are a lot of questions, did he actually kill himself? But so far, their indications are that he did hang himself in that jail cell. We'll see what they come up with in these investigations, though.
And I think the biggest question right now, Mollye, that a lot of people have in regards to this is, why was he taken off a suicide watch so soon after he actually tried to commit suicide? Lots of questions, lots of answers. I'm glad I have you to help clarify it and keep us up to date.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.